Hello, and welcome to the video podcast series, Lifestyle by Design. I'm your host, Margaret Wiltshire, and today I am, woo! I'm super exciting. I'm unleashing my inner 6-year-old because I have one of my absolute favorite children's book authors on today, Andrea Beaty. Woo! Welcome!
Hello. I'll do the wave. Woo. It's less impressive with just one person, but you get the gist.
Yes, it's amazing wave. I'm catching it over here. So welcome. It's an honor to have you. As you
Thank
know,
you.
we've been trying for a while.
I know.
It took us to have this interview. So finally, it's here and it's happening, and we are going to have fun.
Yes. Well, I'm pleased as punch to be here. Very glad.
Thank you. Thank you for being here. I appreciate your time. Thank you.
You're very welcome. You're welcome. I can't wait to.
So, Andrea, I actually wanted to start. This is one of your books are actually some of my favorite. I actually feel like some of them are personal development for adults. So Rosie Revere, Engineer, right, is one of my absolute favorite books. And I'll start with the part that I actually love the most, which is her favorite uncle, Zookeeper, the Zookeeper.
Fred.
And I'm getting nervous. I'm forgetting his name. Zookeeper Fred. He actually, there's a part. Fred hooted, "Oh, truly I do." But Rosie Revere knew that couldn't be true. This part I thought was like just brutally honest, and it's something that you actually don't see in kids' books. And it's something that as a mom, I know that we do. Your kid may do something, you may not particularly love it, but you say you do just to encourage it. And I knew growing up that my family, my grandfather especially, would do things like he would laugh. And it was this laugh where I knew, okay, this wasn't great, but he encouraged me. So tell me about that. Tell me about how you decided to be so brutally honest about that.
Okay, see, actually, I have a different take on that because I don't think that he's laughing at her. I think that to me, Uncle Fred is probably, and I don't know for sure, but I think he's Great Aunt Rose's brother. So I think they have the same traits and the same laugh. And they're people who are so exuberant that whatever happens, they are just filled with laughter and it just spills out. But that Rosie, as a kid, isn't got the, she doesn't have the maturity to be able to interpret that. And kids often don't. Everything is very personal for kids. And whether intended or not, it's interpreted as, something against them. So she took it as him laughing at her. But I did not intend it to be him laughing at her. But at the end of the day, the reader gets to decide how to interpret what happens in the story. So I'm always interested in seeing how people react to Uncle Fred, because some people have that reaction that you had, and that's a real thing that happens to kids too. It does. It does, and it's really hard for them. But it also happens that kids will think they're being laughed at and they're not, but it doesn't matter. It still has that sort of crushing feeling on them, so they don't know how to react to that, and they just have to kind of deal with it. And in her case, she kind of shuts down and decides that she's not going to show anybody her inventions anymore. And so then it's doubly bad than when Great Aunt Rose laughs. But again, she's, I think, laughing out of just utter amazement. I mean, gosh, she made a helicopter out of Cheese Whiz. That's awesome. And I do have to say that Cheese Whiz is one of the great unused energy sources. It should be up there with wind and sun. Cheese Whiz. So that's super interesting. And I don't know if I would change how I worded that to make it more to make that clearer to people. But I don't know. I think it's good when people interpret the book their own ways, because everybody brings to it their own history and their own things that have happened in their own view of the world, but also that's a great conversation starter, no matter which way you interpret that situation. If there's room for a conversation with kids about what do you do when someone laughs at you? What do you do, when you feel frustrated or you feel disappointed? And so yeah, that's fascinating. Very interesting. I love Fred.
As you were saying that, go ahead.
Mostly what I love about Fred is that he's got a snake on his head, and that's hilarious. That's just funny. So I love that the way David drew him, and all of the people in his family, in Rosie's family. If you'll notice in the illustrations, you never see both of their eyes. So in his case, a snake covers his eye. The aunts all have some sort of crazy hairdo that's covering their eye, and one of the uncles with the helium pants. So one of the things in these books that I adore is the art by David Roberts, who never leaves any detail to chance. Everything in his stories are by design. So he did the snake pit or the snake cage with Uncle Fred, but again, because Rosie's hair is like that, all of the people have something covering their eyes. And there's lots and lots of Easter eggs in these books where he tucks in details that connect Rosie with Iggy, and even Madame Chapeau has details that connect back to Iggy and Rosie. So if you want, I can go through.
I had not observed that.
Yes, and well, this is the beautiful thing, though. I mean, Iggy Pet came out over 7 years ago, and I have read that book, I don't know, probably 1,000 times. I mean, I have read it hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of times, and I still find details that were hidden to me because David put so much detail into each one of those illustrations. It's amazing, absolutely amazing. And so I love whenever he did. The illustrations just blew me away, first off, when I saw the sketches from Iggy Peck. And then when I saw the full art, which was very similar to the sketches, but, just more vibrant, I was completely amazed. And then when Rosie, when that spread where she has all of her treasures spread out across the floor, I realized that's going to be just years and years of fun hunting, treasure hunting there. If you'll notice in Rosie Revere, there's a scene where she's dragging the cheesecopter out onto the lawn. And if you look back across the way, there's Iggy's Sphinx that he's created. So that's a cool thing. So Iggy came first, and then Rosie came along. The editor wanted to have another book, and the people at the publisher said, can you write another book about Iggy Peck? And I tried, and I just could not do it. Hold on a second, I think I lost you. And finally, we both came to the same spot where we thought, well, what about some of those other kids in the school? And so I looked at those kids and tried to decide which one to write about. And I went through each picture where the kids showed up. Rosie shows up 4 times, and she. I noticed they all show up 4 times, and I looked at each one trying to figure out what their personality might be based on these small pictures. And I realized that Rosie always had her hair covered over her eye. And when I looked at that, I thought, well, what's her story? She sits there and she tries to be so small. She tries to be invisible. And I realized that she was shy. And so, oh, there you are calling me. Hello?
Hi, it's me.
We totally lost you. Oh.
Yeah.
And I talked a lot.
Back on.
Okay. I see it's trying to come back. I don't know what happened there. I've got good internet, so I'm not sure what the... Although we have had...
Mine should be fine, but sometimes this happens.
We have had really large windstorms here today, so I don't know if that's monkeying with things. I do not see you. It says live, but you're not showing up.
Okay, I'm gonna have to retry. I'm gonna go out and go back in.
Okay, how far did I get in that long meandering story?
Well, Google said it starts that whole Google. Yeah, so it goes that whole part where you talk, but when you talk about tailoring the artwork and the details and connecting, so going through that.
I got the funniest little bit of sunlight coming through my window that's just hitting me right in the nose. It's so ridiculous. Like, what's going on? Okay, let's try that. Like, seriously, it's like crazy. I feel like Pee Wee Herman here. Okay, you're still not showing up.
Okay, let's see.
I'm not hearing you either. Well, there you are. Nice glasses. Oh, hello.
I'm gonna
Okay.
hang on,
Okay.
and we are still on.
Oh, hello. Hello. We're back. We're back.
Hi.
Can you see? Look, I'm being tracked by a sunshine beam. Literally, there's one beam of light outside,
Yes,
and it's
you are.
finding me.
That's something special.
It is. Oh, I'm just sunbeam.
Okay, so
Well,
technical difficulties, but we are back on
happens.
track, and hopefully
All right.
we're here to stay.
yes.
Okay, so you were talking when I last lost you there, or you lost me rather.
When
We were
last
talking
we
about
left
the-
our hero, yes.
Yeah. We were talking about the detail in the artwork and how some of the details, and there are Easter eggs in here that are actually a common thread throughout the book. It's like clues,
Yes,
you
there are.
know?
There are. So in Rosie Revere, so Iggy, I should just give the background a little bit about what happened. I wrote Iggy Peck because my son, when he was a little kid, 3 and 4, loved to build things. And I thought, what if there was a kid who loved to build things? And what if that kid wanted to be an architect? And I got this idea and wrote this rhyming book and sent it out into the world. And it found a home at Abrams Books for Young Readers, which is a publisher I absolutely adore. And the editor decided, what about David Roberts, this English artist, to do the illustrations? And I hadn't really been familiar with his work, but I said, yes, absolutely. Sounds like a great idea, trusting her judgment. And that is truly the gift that publishers, the editors have. It's one of the talents they bring to bear in a picture book, is that they have a sense of what kind of art and what kind of writing will team up and match well and complement each other and make more than the sum of those two parts. Because in a really great picture book, that's what happens. It's so much more than the words, and it's so much more than the art. So she picked David Roberts, and he did this amazing job on Iggy Peck. And after 7 years even, I still find things in that art. Well, we wanted to do another book. They said, well, how about another story for Iggy? But I'd already written that book, and I didn't want to say, okay, so this time he goes and he builds what? A boat. He builds a whatever. I didn't see that as a story I wanted to do. So we decided, what about one of the other kids? And I looked at all the kids and decided to write about Rosie, because she sits there with her hair over her eyes, and she's very, very shy. And I thought, what's her story? Why is she shy? Did I lose you again? You're very, very still, Margaret. Hello? Did I lose you? I don't know. Let's find out. I'm typing a message. I don't know. Hello? Okay, I'm going to say you're not there, but maybe you are there. There
I'm
you
here.
are.
I'm here.
Okay, could you hear all that?
Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Sometimes the video can freeze up, but I can hear you.
Okay, cool. So anyway, when David did the art for Rosie Revere, then he included all these details that go back to Iggy. So for instance, in Iggy Peck's, in the scene where she drags the cheese copter out into the field, if you look behind her, there's the Sphinx that's in Iggy's yard. I think what else there is.
Oh.
So that's one thing. And do I have a Rosie here? I do have a Rosie. I have my, actually, which one is this? Is my Greek version? Oh, I know, it's one of my international translations. There's all kinds of things in this scene, too, which I'll let the viewers dig into, but there's all kinds of details. There's some pictures of where the wild things are. So David was tipping his hat to Maurice Sendak. Some of the little monsters are in there. There's all kinds of science things. I personally love the baby doll, the way it finds its way into the world. But so that's what happened with. There's lots and lots of details back and forth. And then even in Madame Chapeau,
Okay.
if you look at Happy Birthday, Madame Chapeau, if you take off the dust jacket, the back of the book is different than the jacket, which is really cool. And one of the couples of people walking along is Iggy Peck's mom and dad. And you can tell them by the really cool, fashionable clothes they're wearing.
Oh.
So they're on there.
Okay.
And if you go to the scene where they're at the cafe, again, I think Iggy Peck's mom and dad are there. David Roberts' parents are there. David and I are in there.
Oh.
If you find the lady with the Rosie Revere cheese hat, the one that she built for Uncle Fred, that's me. And I'm sitting with David. I'm eating a donut. He's eating some cake. We are very happy people. And and you can tell I have a pencil and he has a paintbrush. So David tucks into all of his art these really fantastic small details. And I think it's the ultimate act of respect for the reader and for kids, because he knows intuitively and with every grain of his body that kids are smart. They are so smart. And when you give them a story that's rich, and you give them vocabulary that's rich, and images that are just full of detail and wonder, they'll always rise up to that, and they will engage with it in a way that's innately, I think, that they understand and they feel honored by. And I think as a writer for kids, that's the most essential thing, because kids are not many, I don't know, sometimes people have this very diminutive view of kids, and it's not the most respectful view, I think. They think that kids are sort of like less than adults. But that's not true. Kids are different. They are kids. But that is an amazing, astounding thing. And it's the greatest of things. And I think of all the audiences that you can possibly write for, writing for kids is probably the toughest, because kids know what they like, they know what they don't like, or what they're willing to investigate. And they don't have a lot of time to be, to be sitting around reading something they may not like. And they know when you're trying to feed them a bill of goods. They know when you're trying to be preachy to them. And even though Rosie has this message, and Iggy does too, I never, ever set out to write a book with a message. It just kind of happens, and it kind of creeps in there, and then shocks me when it does. And when that happens, I know it's okay. But if I sat down to say, I'm going to write a book that says you should persevere, that's tedious and boring, and it's like taking cough syrup, and who needs it? Nobody wants to read that book. I don't want to write that book. So it's all about keeping me amused. At the end of the day, if I'm not amused, ain't nobody amused.
Well, I think it's amazing, and the messages are brilliant. They're absolutely brilliant. And going back a little bit to the interpretation of how I interpreted it, the part about Uncle Fred could just be, a story that I put in my head that really wasn't true. Maybe my grandfather, because I know that, like with my 6-year-old, I am all the time just amazed at the stuff that she does and what she thinks about, and how she doesn't wait for the right time or the right moment and to have all the right ducks lined up. She just kind of does it. So maybe in his head that was, the place that he was coming from, but I interpreted it, it's just a story that lived in my head,
But that's the beautiful thing about fiction, is that it can connect to you, and it connects to the stories that you have lived and the things that you have seen from other people, and the lessons you have learned through reading or other ways. And it lets you reassess those things. It lets you reassess your own history and your own experience, and maybe have a better rounded view of it. Or it teaches empathy. That's the greatest thing of all. That is the most powerful reason that fiction is absolutely essential to every human being, I think, because it teaches us empathy. It lets us walk a mile in someone else's shoes without having to actually go out and get some exercise. I mean, it's really a great thing. So it's the most wonderful thing. And that's why it's powerful. And kids connect to that. Everybody connects to that, I think.
They do.
Yeah.
They do. They connect to the emotions. It's true. So tell me, Andrea, why in the world is there a copy of Rosie Revere circling the globe?
Well, this is amazing and wonderful. So there is a program called Storytime from Space, and you can learn about it at storytimeforspace.org. And this is a program which takes picture books and sends copies of them up to the International Space Station, where the astronauts will read the books and make videotapes of the readings, and will make those available to teachers, students, families, Earthlings, Martians, anybody. It's fantastic. They also will do, coming, I think I want to say they're shooting in March. They're sending up a rocket with experiments that will complement the books, and then the astronauts will do those experiments and make materials of those videos, and also materials available that classrooms can do here, anywhere in the country, around the world. They can do the same experiments or complementary experiments to the ones the astronauts have done. And it's a program that helps show that literacy and science literacy and space literacy, they're all connected, and they're all amazing and fun. And I was really honored that they chose Rosie as a book to send up. And so in December,
Wow.
they shot they had a rocket go up and took a copy of the book to the space station. And now she goes by, and you can actually go online, and there's information on my website, but you can track where the International Space Station goes. So occasionally I'll go outside and wave to her as she zooms past. Hey, Rosie. Hey, Rosie. But it's storytimefromspace.org, and there's more information on my website, which is andreabeaty.com. So it's a fantastic program. It's just really getting rolling, and in the coming months and years, they're going to have lots of books that they're going to read, and it's going to be an amazing resource for educators and for families and for anybody who's just astounded with books in space. So cool.
That's pretty awesome. What an honor.
It is. And I got
be really amazing,
It is. I went to Florida with my son to watch the launch, and it was really interesting because we went there for 4 days. And the first day,
wow.
it was going to launch, and then the clouds were too thick, so they couldn't go, because if the clouds are too thick, there's too much potential for lightning, so that doesn't work. And then the next day, it was going to go up, and the winds were too strong. And then the next day, it was going to go up again, and the winds were too strong. And so finally, it wasn't until the 4th day that it launched, and by then we were on an airplane coming home. But as we looked out the window, and came above the clouds, we saw the spot where the jet trail had gone. So we were close. We missed her by that much. But it was I thought that's actually kind of cool that we didn't see it actually launch, because that was very Rosie Revere, to learn through failure and to know that science and everything you do just takes a lot of tries. And it was very exciting, but it's about trying over and over and over again. And the experience of going to NASA and meeting a lot of people and a lot of scientists and engineers who are involved with these kind of amazing endeavors really showed me it's just part of the process. They take failure in stride. It is just a given. It's the next step. Okay, good. We that messed up. How do we fix that? Okay, let's move on to this. What could be the next problems? Okay, fix that. And they learn through it. It's not a bad thing to fail. It is just simply part of the process. And I think that's one of the reasons that Rosie has connected so well to particularly scientists and engineers and people who love innovation, because they recognize that that's the process. And it's an unfortunate side effect, I think, of a lot of the testing we do. And there's reasons to have testing and education and all of that. It's not a debate that I'm qualified or really want to go into, because it has its purposes. But I think there is a side effect, and I think it's that kids, when they're always drilled in having to get the answers right, it means that there are right answers and there are wrong answers all the time to them. And that's not the case, because it's a process of learning and failing, and you learn more through failing than you do from getting things right. So that's my thought anyway. And I think Rosie connects to people in that.
Okay. And one of the things that I especially love is that Rosie is a girl who's into engineering.
She is.
And that is pretty impressive too, because I feel, in our culture especially, girls aren't really encouraged, in STEM, science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. It's not kind of like the thing to do, but there is a movement now to get more girls involved. So can you tell me how Rosie and Iggy and Iggy are able to engage kids in this movement?
You know what? Kids really do respond. And I have to say, there are many things that surprise me about both of the books. and please me to no end. And it is that kids of both genders connect to both books. So, boys will pick up Rosie Revere. And a lot of times it's parents I see going, oh, that's the girl book. Don't, again, they give their boy Iggy. And Iggy's a great book. But Rosie is also equally applicable, I think, to boys and girls. Having said that, it is a real need to have girls be better engaged and more excited and more involved with STEM. And there is just an amazing, amazing movement out there. And I think it's been coming for a long time. But I think in the last 4 or 5 years, it's really started to pick up steam. Oh my gosh, that's a pun. I just did a pun. I did not intend to do that. That's funny. But yeah, science nerd joke there. And Rosie has plugged into that. But to me, the aspect of it is that she's an engineer. And frankly, she's an engineer because I wanted to see what David would do with the illustrations. I knew that if he could make a tower out of divers that was so cool, and the bridge that he makes over the river, that for Iggy Peck, I knew that whatever he did with Rosie Revere would simply be amazing if she was an engineer. But having said that, we do need to have girls better engaged and more involved in science, but I think we have to do that from a really, really early age. If, we know that women are maybe, I think, about somewhere between 13 and 15% of the engineering workforce, or, women go into that number go into STEM pretty consistently. And that's just not enough because we have so many problems that we need to fix. We need all the engineers, all the scientists, all the artists, all the people we can have of any gender, both genders, all genders, to get in there and really get involved. But I think that what happens, we know the girls disengage somewhere between 4th grade and 7th grade. We start waning off that. Before they don't see themselves as not liking STEM. It's just whatever. But I think we really have missed the boat if we have kids come into grade school and not have science as just part of their world. I think kids need to, from birth, just be ingrained in science. And that's, I think, a large thing that parents have to work towards, parents and early educators. And it's something that scares people, like, oh no, I'm not a scientist. I can't teach my kids science. But that's not true. Because it's not that parents are non-scientists, it's that they're new scientists. So are their kids. So their kids are all about discovering. They're all about asking questions and just looking for answers. That's what science is. Science is just asking questions and looking for answers. And anybody can do that. And if you have a kid who's asking, what's that, when they look at a rock, and the parent says, well, it's a rock, but I don't know much more about it, let's find out. That's all you have to do, and let the kids' questions lead you through discovery. There are so many fantastic books out there, nonfiction and fiction books, that can really help kids and parents just grow in their love of science. And I think the more that we engage kids at a very, very young age, the more this problem will just sort of melt away, because there's also a lot of support that's coming along at older ages. But I think it will become a non-problem. And I think kids, then girls, when they get to the 5th, 6th grades, and those pressures that go, oh, you're in science, whatever, I think they'll just look at that and go, that you're not doing science is like asking me not to know how to run. What is wrong with you? It will be not an issue anymore. And that's the day I'm hoping for anyway. I think that will come.
Okay. It will come.
It will. It will.
It'll probably here already.
It'll be a while.
I'm sure some of it is here. So,
Yes.
Tell me, a couple of questions here. One is, how can we encourage girls more to get involved in STEM? How can parents encourage girls? And you mentioned books. You said that there's some great, actually there's 3 questions, right? Wrapped up in one. You mentioned some books, like great books. If you can also at the end of that, after you answer those questions, just recommend a few, like 3.
Okay. Wow. That's gonna
Besides
be
Rosie Revere.
Well, there's only the one that I have. And 2 in the fall with Ada. How do we get girls particularly more engaged in STEM? I think one of the things about girls is that they connect to story, that it's so integral to how they learn. They learn through stories. So finding ways to include science and story together. And that's really the basis of the Goldilocks toys, is that they have books that go with the toys. But I think it's easy to make games when you're playing with your kid, and it includes some science. It doesn't have to be a really formal process. And I think the less formal it is, the better. So by reading lots of great books, and I will just say that for me, my favorite resource for getting girls engaged in just about any kind of area you want to go to, and particularly STEM, is a website called amightygirl.com, and it's all together, amightygirl.com. It is a fantastic website. They have resources. They have all the books you could possibly imagine. They have on any kind of topic.
Wow.
But they have a terrific library of picture books and categorized by age and interest that are very, very great for getting kids into science. My favorite books, I will say, for getting kids excited about STEM are not necessarily STEM books. And people consider Rosie a STEM book, but it's also a fiction picture book. So to me, it's more about the character and about the story, but it happens to also work in the STEM world. But there are a couple of others like that. And the one is called The Most Magnificent Thing by Ashley Spear, and it might be Spire. I don't know how to pronounce her name. Sorry, Ashley, if you're out there. And also the Peter Reynolds books. So Peter Reynolds is an author, illustrator who's an amazing, amazing artist. And he's written books like Ish and The Dot, and they're all about creativity and wonder and exploration. So to me, if you start with helping kids open up to exploration and their own curiosity and exploring that, then I think they will end up, and then you also start feeding them books on science, and they can be, actually technical science books, but there's all kinds of biographies. Oh, one of my very favorite biographies is On a Beam of Light, and I forget the author, I'm sorry to say, but it's about Albert Einstein. It's absolutely wonderful. There's a great book called Infinity and Me about infinity. The Boy Who Loved Math. Okay, now I could just go on and on and on. If you go to amightygirl.com, you'll find a great selection of all the books. And the other thing is, go to a local independent bookstores. The people there love good books, and they will know all of the new books that are STEM oriented or help your kid with exploration or whatever the issues. They are the best resources, and also great school librarians. Those three places, and you cannot fail. You'll find the books you need. I have no doubt. And there was another part to that question. What was it?
I think the last part you did. You kind of blended in two, and you threw in a website.
And it's a fantastic website. You should absolutely go check it out. It's a great resource.
Okay. Now I have to give a little shout out here to Happy Birthday, Madame Chapeau.
Yes, I love this book.
Awesome. This book was very fancy to me, I loved the artwork. I think, it can you talk a little bit about the inspiration behind this book? This is a great book.
Oh, thank you so much. I absolutely love this book. This book happened because David Roberts came to New York. He lives in London, and he doesn't travel overseas very much, but he came to New York. And when he did that, I flew from Chicago and spent some time with him. And we spent a day in an old Art Deco restaurant, just sitting and talking. And we sat together for 5 hours, just swapping, our life stories, stories of our lives and the things we've done. And I learned a lot about him. And I learned that the reason that his books are so elegant and that he is so, the characters are so beautifully, beautifully drawn is that he went to college to study fashion design. So a fashion illustration was his thing. And so you can tell in every piece of clothing it goes, there's nothing, again, left to chance in these books. All of the gowns that Iggy's mom wears or the aunts or whoever, those are based on actual designs of real, haute couture. I'm not an haute couture kind of person, but they're actual designs by great designers. But after he graduated from college, he went to Hong Kong and he became a milliner. And when he did that, when he told me that, I said, "Oh, David, I'm writing you a hat book. I got to write you a book about hats." And so I did. And that's Happy Birthday, Madame Chapeau. And when I wrote it, I sent it to our editor. I put it in a hat box and I sent it to her. And nice. She loved the story and she sent it in that hat box to England. And David was like, yes. So that's where it came from. And I truly love this book. But on my website, again, you can go to the pages about Happy Birthday, Madame Chapeau. And David has a lot of information there about his inspiration for the art. And again, as I said, with David's art, nothing is left to chance. And in Happy Birthday, Madame Chapeau, every hat in that book is based on an existing hat. So some of the hats are his own designs. There's one that he made for his mother for his sister's wedding. That's in there. But the other hats are ones from famous milliners such as Philip Treacy, Stephen Jones, Elsa Schiaparelli. So that shoe-shaped hat, that's a very, very famous hat from 1935 or 28. I'm going to mess up my dates on that. And so he took, again, his love for millinery and art and the art of clothing and design, and he put it in there. And the main character then is, and I'm going to draw a blank. Oh my goodness, I've forgotten her name. Anyway, yes, do you remember? She's a very famous fashion maven who has long since died, and I'm pulling a blank on her name, so I'm very bad. But anyway, she is the main character. He based Madame Chapeau on her. That's the way she looks. And the name will come to me as soon as we hang up.
Okay.
So, yes.
And he is British, so we know how the British are about their hats.
Oh, they are. I do love them. I love me some hats, too. In fact, if you hold on one second, I'm going to be right back. Hold on.
Okay.
Okay. I didn't know I might need this, but to that end, I have my own Madame Chapeau hat. It goes well with my earphones, too. My sister made that for me. How about that?
Those are awesome.
I know. I wear it, too. I wear it when I write, and I go like that, and it helps me think. It's very cool. So that's my sister, Paula. Thanks, Paula.
Now, how perfect was that? Because that was perfect introduction to my next question.
Oh, I planned it that way.
Next question. Creativity.
Yeah.
What is your ritual like, if you care about sharing? What do you do to get inspired to sit down to write these amazing, life-changing, impactful, stories?
What do I do? I drink a lot of coffee. That helps me for sure. What do I do? I find that books creep up on me when I'm not looking. So I do best if I'm, first off, you have to kind of make the time to write. And that's where I fall down miserably, because I let other things sort of nickel and dime my time, or just sort of distract me. And so keeping myself focused and setting aside a block of time is really, really hard. But that's the big thing. You have to just sit down and do it. But having said that, going for walks is really helpful. So I like to get out in the forest and garden, or I used to take naps. I had 2 apple trees and a hammock, and my apple trees died, and now I'm very sad. I know, this is going to be a bad summer. I'll have to get something new, a new thing to sleep in. So reading, of course, also is very helpful and inspirational. Anything that takes my mind away from the everyday things I've got to deal with, the paying the bills and the whatever, the demands of the now, the here, and lets me just kind of explore. I always find that when I'm not looking, a story will sneak up on me. And if one sneaks up on me while I'm working at that, then another one will come along. So it's just, a lot of it's just getting in the groove, I think, and letting your brain get clear. And sometimes traveling, like if I'm traveling and just being in a hotel by myself for a day or two will be enough to sort of shake things loose and set a new story on the road.
Okay. Now, about the way you work, when you say a story sneaks up on you, is it that, it's like divine inspiration, the muse is whispering to you, or is it perhaps like maybe there is a theme or something that you want to write about, and you sit down and you say, well, how am I going to put this together?
It is almost never a theme. That tends to come later. That tends to be something that I discover through the process of writing, and I'm unaware that I'm writing about something really until I'm done, and then I go, oh, that's what that is, huh? And or I have people point out to me, I love the way your book is about a blah, blah, and I'm like, really? I didn't know that. And I should just learn to say, I know. It's really cool the way I did that. So for me, a story will happen most often because I'll get a phrase stuck in my head or a character, and there's some starting place that's sort of tangible. It's either a set of words that, for instance, a rhyming song, a rhyming book will be like music that I hear through the wall. I can't quite make it out, but I'll hear the sort of the rhythm of it, and the more I let it trip around in my mind, and over time it'll be as if I get closer and closer and finally open the door and can hear it and then be able to write it down. So that's very much about music. And picture books in general are about poetry. But they come to me based on a phrase or maybe a character or one very tiny snapshot, and I'll say, what's going on in that picture? Like an image will just pop in my head, and I'll say what's going on there, and then I'll start exploring it. But I never sit down to say I'm going to write a book about, friendship or whatever. That doesn't interest me. What interests me is this connection between two specific characters and what they are like and how their dynamic works. In the same way, I don't find the ocean particularly interesting. I mean, it's fascinating. Obviously, it's big. Well, lots of things in there to eat you. I love the ocean. It's great. I love the shore. But to me, the interesting place is where the land meets the shore. Like going out on a cruise, I find really dull because it's like, yay, more waves. We did that yesterday too. Woo. That's dull. But if it's a beautiful landscape where the land meets the water, the land meets the water, that's fascinating to me. So where things meet is the intersection. That's the place I like to explore, I think. Yeah.
Have you always wanted to be an author?
Oh, no, heavens no. When I was a kid, I wanted to be a spy, and I wanted to be a detective, farmer, a race car driver. My nickname was Mario Andretti in 7th grade. I did not have a car, but that's all right. A bike. That wasn't very fast. I wanted to be a million things, and I really didn't. I really wasn't too discerning. I'm like, yeah, I'll be that. That sounds good, yay. And I read a lot of books. So whatever I was reading a book about pretty much, sent me down that road. But when I got in high school, I started studying science, and I really loved biology. And I loved chemistry, and loved physics. Didn't do so well. I mean, I did well in it, but it's amazing. Physics is amazing because it explains everything, just absolutely everything. But I don't have a great memory for numbers, is what I've discovered. So as soon as I would learn it, I'd be like, that's astounding. And I've just forgotten it. That's not going to end well. What can you do? So I actually went in college. I studied biology, and and as that degree, I studied physics and chemistry and microbiology, which I really loved. And I also studied computer science. So when I got out of college, I had a degree in computer science, and I got a job being a computer person for a software company, and did that for a number of years. And then had kids, and at that point I was starting to read picture books with my kids and really enjoyed it. And the difference between the quality and just the volume of amazing books, and there were great books when I was a kid, I'm sure, though I was little and I don't remember them, except Go, Dog, Go. I remember that one. But the amount of amazing literature available to kids now is unbelievable. And people who say there are not great books for kids are just staying at home on their couch, because all you have to do is go to the library and start digging. And if you're not finding something, you're bringing the problem with you. I'm just saying that. I'm just going to put that out there. But what was I going with that? Oh, so eventually I started getting ideas, and they would just get in my head, and I eventually started writing them down, and I really enjoyed it, and I got the bug. And after that, it's like, okay, writing some books. And now I'm here. I don't even know. It's a crazy journey. I did not expect it. But I'm enjoying it.
Journey. It's a beautiful, because you're embracing it, as it comes your way, you're embracing it, and that's beautiful.
Well, it's not to love, I mean, I meet amazing people, yourself included. I mean, I just meet amazing people everywhere I go. And the kids' literature world, I have yet to meet anybody I have not liked, really, truly liked in that field, because everyone is so passionate about literature and art, and they're funny people because they all look at the world in sort of this weird little quirky way like I do. It's like they're always looking at things in a different way, and they're great and fun. So, and I get to see a lot of kids, and when you see a kid pick up your book and read it, and the very best thing is when, like, you'll be in an event and you'll see a kid take their sibling and sit in the corner and read the book to each other. Oh, it doesn't get better than that. What could be better? Nothing could be better than that. So it's cool. I'm really honored to be cool. and lucky, and so I count that blessing every day because I didn't plan it.
Yeah. So. That's really awesome. As I had mentioned to you, I self-published a children's book.
Yes, congratulations.
Thank you. And one of the first places I tested it was in my daughter's pre-K class. And I remembered one day walking in, and a group of little boys were reading the book. And another kid walked in, another boy, and one of the boys in the group held up the book, and he was like, "Look," and the boy walking in was like, "Yes, my favorite book." And I sat there like, oh my God, this is so surreal. And then I thought, I should pull out my iPhone. So I have a memory of that. It was weird. It was really weird feeling, because I think for me, I realized that you're like this instrument, like something flows through you and you birth it into the world, and then it like takes on this life of its own.
Those corners are deadly. Oh, that was my off right there. So I'm sorry. It is that, and it does take on this surreal feeling because it does have this life of its own, and these books find their way into distant places. And I get emails now with kids dressed up like Rosie or Iggy, and I hope when Ada Twist Scientist comes up that there'll be kids dressing up like her as well. And it's like, wow, your words, something that amused you, has had some connection. Sometimes a really powerful connection. I get emails from parents who tell me, their kid now reads because they fell in love with the book I wrote, and that's something that you just what do you even do with that? It's so overwhelming, the power of that, and you just can just say, be humbled by it and say, I am amazed and thank you for telling me, and just go on your way and try to write another book, because if you think about it too much, it'll freak you out.
Yeah. And right there is where you touched on one of the reasons why I actually have this podcast. As the words were coming out of your mouth, I was like, that's it right there. The purpose of this podcast really is to reach people who want to live their dreams, and they want to do things, but they feel stuck. They might be a bit unclear. Maybe, playing the survival game, or they've got responsibilities, or they think it's too late in life and they can't do certain things. To put them in touch with people like yourself, who are embracing. You've embraced, the muses talking to you. You've embraced the connections that you want to take. You've embraced that. And because you've done that and you have used your personal power and you said, I'm going to do this. You didn't know where it was going to take you. Look at the impact that it just has. I mean, Rosie's up in space now.
I know.
You know what I mean? She's going to live. She's going to outlive us all.
And that's an astounding thought, because actually one of the things about picture books is that they're very ephemeral. You don't think it, but kids' books come and they go very quickly. So the very thought of one that might actually still be remembered when I'm gone is amazing. But I have to say something, particularly about people who think it's too late in their lives to do anything. Oh, no, not true. I could never have been an author in my 20s or my 30s. I knew how to write, and I've always been, good at writing papers or whatever. But I could never have been an author until the time when I became one. And it's because I had to collect all the skills and the tools from each phase of my life, and those informed who I was and what I had to write about and the skills I had to do it. And that could not have happened earlier. And I take from that lesson also just the example of my mom, who went back to college, whenever I was in high school. So when the time I got to my bachelor's degree, she was working in her master's degree at the same school, at the same university. And she was, at an age where people now think, oh, I would not be brave enough to do it. But I'm saying go do it, because to see the transformation that came through her just in the chance to live her dreams and to explore the world and to find the resources that she had because of her age and because she had lived the life she had. You live the life you have, and by the time you get to a spot, you are the only person who has that life. And when I see kids, I tell them, whatever you're interested in, explore it. If you're interested in anything, it doesn't matter what it is. You go and you explore it. And every time you do that, you take a tool and you put it in your tool bag. And then you go and you learn about something else, and they can be totally unrelated. Doesn't matter. If it's interesting to you, go find out about it. And there will come a time in your life where you are the only person who has exactly the right tool set to tackle this one problem. And that's when you'll go, oh, I'm ready. I'm done. I'm ready. I got it. I got this. And that's what happens. And that's kind of where my trajectory. And I think most people, if they're curious at all, will kind of eventually come to that. It's easy to waste time along the way, and sometimes that's actually what you need to do. You need to take those naps in your hammock. But people should just be a little braver. I think that's my own advice. If I could go back and give advice to my own 17-year-old self or 20-year-old self or 40-year-old self, or oh my goodness, I have too many selves on that end of this. That end of the line now, is to be a little braver. Just be a little braver and go out and try it. Because if you assess what's the worst thing that could happen, chances are it's usually not too bad. You probably won't die from it. You might, but you probably won't. True. Whatever it is. You'll just have some embarrassment. True. Pick yourself up, dust yourself off, and off you go.
Like Rosie.
Absolutely.
Bringing it right back to Rosie.
Absolutely.
And, what Rosie goes through, like adults go through, and probably why I connect with her a bit, Absolutely. But you, and it's okay. And it's this idea now that, well, it's not really an idea now. It's always been there. We just looked at it the other way. But it's okay to fail. Failure is necessary. In fact, go out there and fail. Do some things and fail.
It is.
Because they teach you. They teach you what to do and what
Absolutely.
Not to do.
Absolutely. I think the person right now who's in the news a lot who really personifies that is Elon Musk, and he's the founder of Tesla and SpaceX. So they have this amazing rocket that now could go up and come back down and land, and that is going to change space travel in ways we can't even fathom yet. But the most wonderful process, it's been a fun process to watch unfold, because every time he's had these rockets, these things are bazillions of simoleons. They are really expensive. And they come and they crash and fall into the ocean, and they're like, oh, well. And he's not like, oh, curses, rats. He's like, we came this close. Did you see? We came that close. Now, how do we go from here? Okay, it failed. Yay. Now let's do the next one. And that's exactly what you have to do in life. And that's an awesome experience and a great process. Yeah.
And that's the book that I'm actually reading now, personally. I'm looking for it because it's like somewhere, but I think it's in my bedroom. But it's written by Ashley. I think she's a journalist. Oh. He allowed her to write this book about him.
Oh, fantastic! I'll read that.
Yeah, it's a pretty amazing book. And he, the visionary, he is your Rosie Revere. He's been doing things since he was very young, and he, the things that he's doing now, he envisioned as a child.
Yeah.
And in college. So it's pretty amazing to see him doing that.
It really is. Yeah. I thought he's an interesting guy. I'd like to have conversations with him, because I think he'd be fascinating to talk to.
Yeah.
Many people like that, though. Many people I want to talk to.
They say in the book that he was very good in physics, and he talks that language. So so he kind of speaks that way all the time. So, you kind of have to, I guess, understand that world and that language to really get along very well with him.
Sure.
You studied a bit of science, and you said you weren't that great with physics.
But it's so fascinating, because it really explains everything. I mean, and oh my goodness, I'm so excited watching like all of the NASA reports and all of the news that is, that comes out all the time. People don't think there's much going on in physics and science and space exploration. It's astounding what's going on. And the news this last week about the gravitational waves, actually being able to record those, that's going to change the universe. And I'm always fascinated by things that change the way we look at things, the way we look at the universe. And that's what I think the role of art is. Art changes the way we see the world, just in the simplest ways and the most profound ways. So that, to me, is where science and art are really one and the same. I don't see this need to separate them apart. It makes no sense to me, because they both explain and gives questions, and they make the universe rich and wonderful.
I agree with you there. I definitely agree with you there. So tell me, Andrea, what was it like, really briefly, because I don't want to take up too much of your time. We're getting close to 60 minutes here. Let me know if I'm doing good. But when you hit the New York Times bestseller, what was that feeling like for you?
That was really shocking and cool. It just, wow. I don't even know. It was a kind of a surprise. It confirmed something that I had hoped, that when I wrote the book, I thought, I think this is a good book. I think this manuscript is really solid and it's a good story. And then when I edited it more and it really clicked, I went, I think this might be pretty good. And then when I saw the art that David had done, I said, this book is really, really, really a good book. And then but for all of that, you can love it. It's like your own kids, you can love it, and you do, and that has wonder and beauty and goodness in itself. But when it goes out into the world and other people begin to see that, and it really confirms what you've hoped, that it's a book that connects to people, and it connects in a really big way. And Rosie was on the Times for 64 weeks, so that's a long, long, long time. So it's a lot of people she's connected to, and I see that still going. I mean, I see constantly people just spreading the word and to friends, giving the book to others as presents, when their kids go to birthday parties or whatever, and that just really amazes me and delights me, because it just means that somehow, and I don't know, like you said, you just sort of get to do this book and then it has its own life. But I had some small part in that, and or maybe a big part. I don't know. I had a part in it anyway, and it's astounding. I hear someone young.
You hear her back here, yes.
Hello, person. Yeah, and it's my hope that then the next book, which comes out in September, it's going to be Ada Twist, Scientist, and this is the little girl who has the red and white polka dot dress, and she's just beautiful. And so Ada do you have a picture of it?
Well, I do have a picture on there, but I was wondering, since you said everything was connected.
Yes. That's her. Yes.
That's her.
That is Ada Twist, Scientist. And if you hold a moment, I don't know how to do this, but I bet we could actually bring up a
screen share
of a screen share, perhaps.
Yes. So the way that it would be done, make sure that you have the picture by itself.
Okay.
And on the side, the green button with the little arrow, screen share, when you press that, it'll ask you which window you want to open. So, and you click directly on that.
Okay, we'll see if that works. Okay, boom.
If not, I can do it.
Do you have a copy of the cover?
I do.
Oh, you know what? You're probably better at doing this, since I haven't done this before, and I don't want to. Who knows what else is out there? So Ada Twist is a girl who I decided to write about her next, because in Iggy Peck, I said when I wrote about Rosie, it was because I was curious how she sat there and tried to be so small and hid behind her bangs. So I really took the cues from the pictures to decide, to explore her character, instead of just making up what I wanted her to be. I wanted to know who she was. And so I tried to follow that same direction with this book. And I looked through every time each of the kids shows up in Rosie and Iggy. So that's about 7 or 8 times now that each kid shows up. And I decided to write about her because in Iggy Peck, whenever Iggy is making his bridge, everybody's sitting there and Iggy's drawing out the plans in the sand, and everybody's doing something, but she's standing there and she's just going like this. And I could tell that kid is just thinking, and she is just figuring stuff out, and her brain is going a million miles a minute. So the story of Ada Twist is that she's a little girl who is just pure chaos, but she's pure chaos driven by absolutely consuming curiosity. She wants to know everything. And it gets her into all kinds of trouble, but she wants to know everything, why, what, when, where, how, and she just tears through the house trying to discover things and to learn what she can about the universe. So she's a scientist because, again, science is asking questions and then trying to figure out some answers about them. And so she's just innately is that. So in the sense that Iggy was about passion. That's just a book all about passion. And Rosie is perseverance, then Ada is about curiosity. So
yeah. All right, so I'm pulling it up. That's pretty awesome.
It's good. It's going to be fun. And the sketches I've seen, and David is even now, he's got his nose to the grindstone making those final arts so we can get the book out in the fall. And what I'm seeing so far is it makes my heart sing.
Okay. I'm sure it's going to be absolutely beautiful.
He's
and
amazing.
I will get my copy.
Yes, indeed.
Here, let's see.
Ah, there she is. There she is. Yes. And so you can see on this is the cover. And this is Ada Marie Twist. So her namesakes are Ada Lovelace, who is the mother of computer programming, and Marie Curie.
Okay.
So who was, of course, the first person ever to win Nobel Prizes in 2 different sciences. She has had one in chemistry and also physics, and taught us so much of what we know about radiation. It was really, really part of the story. Trying to figure out how to name this kid was hard because there's so many amazing women scientists through history. But ultimately, I really wanted to connect to those two, partly because of my computer background. So I wanted to give Ada Lovelace her due, and Marie Curie has always been kind of a hero. And the names worked for the rhyming scheme because that's the really tricky bit with a rhyming book. And you can see on the background here, she's figuring stuff out. So she's trying to figure out what this terrible stink comes into her world. She's out there doing an experiment one day, and suddenly this smell just knocks her for a loop, and she has to figure out what it is. And so the quest begins, and here she is trying to figure out what could it possibly be. And that's her. Okay. So I'm really hoping that we'll have kids dress up like her, come Halloween or book days or whatever, because that would be so
That's
cool.
Pretty awesome. Yeah. That'll be pretty awesome. And what I do love is that it does offer some diversity.
Yes.
So that's brilliant also,
It is. And I have to say, that was the thing. Whenever I wrote Iggy Peck, and the way it works when you write a picture book, typically, unless you are also the artist, you write the book and you send the words, and that's all you send to the editor, and the editor then finds the illustrator. So I did not put into the text of the manuscript, I want a classroom that's wonderful and diverse and all kinds of kids, whatever. None of that. It literally, from the words that are in Iggy Peck, David came up with this whole different world. So he envisioned it, just the whole thing. And when he sent back the art, and it had this classroom of kids of every kind, I just fell in love, because the potential for story is so great there. And it's really important for kids to see themselves in books. I think kids of every kind need to see themselves, and they need to see examples of people like them doing amazing, wonderful things. And I think fiction connects to, you can be a person and connect to someone of different ethnicity, race, gender, whatever. But it also, and that has strength, and that builds empathy, and that's incredibly valuable. But it's also valuable to see someone like you doing something you may have never considered doing. And so I'm super excited about that as well. And she's so cute, and I love polka dots. I don't know, it's gonna be fun to see what happens.
Absolutely brilliant.
Yeah, thank you. I'm very, very excited about it, and we're all just enjoying. And again, lots of Easter eggs in there. So when you get it, you'll have to look in there, and there's lots of puzzles and different things that Ada's figuring out, and lots of connections to the other kids. So lots to do. Yeah.
I will definitely be on the lookout for that.
Thank you. It comes out September 6th.
I was just going to ask you when it comes out.
And I have lots of information. It'll be, on my website, which is AndreaBeaty.com. And also for educators out there, I have an enormous number of pins and things out on my Pinterest account. trying to, for all of my books. So, science experiments, engineering experiments, writing
Nice.
things, fun things, hats, goofy things, alien rabbit things, whatever it is. And I'm at Andrea Beaty. So it's AndreaBeatyPint on Pinterest. And I'm also at Twitter at Andrea Beaty on Twitter. So
Awesome.
yeah, I'm out there.
And lots of cheese whiz experiments.
Yes. I've had some people get a little annoyed about the cheese whiz. I'm like, what? You just don't know the power. You don't know the power. Actually, it's wonderful. On my website, there's an experiment. Some of the folks at Northern Illinois University have a great program for STEM education, and they built a working Rosie Revere cheese spray hat, and it keeps away pythons. Yeah, it works. Because you will rarely find cheese spray and pythons in the same place. And I realize that is not the way science works, but it is.
It's a repellent. I'll remember to take that with me when I go to Florida, and I can snack on it too when I'm hungry.
Yes, you can. It'll
So
save off the
double
munchies.
Benefit there.
But watch out for alligators because they do like it. So.
Okay, yeah, and they've got tons of alligators down there.
Yeah, those pythons though that get me, and I like snakes a lot, but the pythons, I do not like the pythons. Nope.
Okay.
Just don't. Yeah. And on that
note. Okay. Andrea, you look like you are a ton of fun.
I'm a ton anyway. So.
Well, no.
Thank you. Okay. I couldn't resist that. I can never resist a cheap joke. It's just who I am.
Okay. Tell me,
thank you.
What are your 3 favorite things to do?
Oh boy, wow. Go to the movies. I love to go to the movies and read. So those go together. So entertain myself. I'm going to cheat. I'm going to tell you so many more things. Go for walks in the forest. That's a big thing.
Okay.
And just sort of hang out with my family, probably.
Okay.
Yeah, depending on the day. Okay, they're great.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Those kind of things.
What's your favorite app?
Sky Guide. And it's Sky, Guide, and it's a fantastic app that lets you point at. It's great on an iPad. I think it might be on the phone as well, but on the iPad, it lets you point your iPad at some place and look and see all the stars. It gives you both the celestial pictures of it, but also you can zoom into specific stars. You can hear the radio signals. You can get information from NASA about them. You can track the International Space Station and Rosie Revere as she passes by. It's brilliant. It is my favorite app. I like to just go outside and just look at the sky. And for the first time, I can actually look and say, oh, that's where, Canis Major, that's the Pleiades. I understand now. People always talk about this, and now I can see what that is. So it's great for anybody who's interested at all in astronomy. It's wonderful.
That's pretty cool.
That's a good question.
I've got to check that app out.
Yeah.
What's your favorite food?
Oh, anything that involves tomatoes and pasta. It's like literally tomatoes. I have to have tomatoes every day.
Anything that involves?
Tomato and pasta.
Okay.
In any form. Yeah.
Okay. One of my favorite too. Okay. And final question. Well, it's not so much of a question, but recommendation. I always ask my guests to give 3 action steps, and you kind of did some of that. Well, here's the question. Or the recommendation I'm asking for. 3 action steps that people can take to start living the life they want to start living on purpose, with purpose, to start doing the things they want to do. What 3 action steps would you offer?
Read more and read poetry, because that's lets you look at the world in a different way. And just in general, experience art as much as you can. Get bored, go out, unplug, get out, and go and sit in a field until you don't think you can possibly be there any longer, and then really look around and take notice of the small things. And laugh. Go out and laugh. If something's funny, laugh at it, because what the heck? You'll be dead one day, and then then who will laugh? So yeah, those things. Because honestly, life is really short.
It is really short.
enjoy it, you know, and see the beauty in it. And I think one thing I've tried to do, and you know, in terms of being mindful, and I'm not very big on reading books to make myself better because I'm too lazy, basically. So I could probably read a book about that. That'd be helpful. But I think just being grateful for things. And I try in the mornings. I usually fail, but I try to wake up and think, what are some things I'm going to be looking forward to today? 3 things, you know. And at the end of the day, what are 3 things that made me happy today, or that had beauty, or that I'm glad I saw? And it takes no time, but it just helps you, even in the worst of days, say, oh, okay, there was some good out there, and it helps you weather the storm a bit. So those things, that's a good question too. Thanks.
Okay.
Yeah. Any Cheese Whiz.
Thank you.
Just buy stock in Cheese Whiz.
Okay. Okay. I like that. That's funny.
Indeed. Yeah. Thank you so much for having me on. I can't wait to tell everybody, and I'll send out links and say, everybody, come and watch this. And eat your Cheese Whiz.
This was awesome.
Well, thank you very much.
I know, right? Get the Cheese Whiz.
And
whatever else, side snack.
Snacks.
It'll definitely keep the pythons away.
It will, indeed. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Andrea. I am so grateful and honored for your time. It was a pleasure to have you here. As I said, you are absolutely one of my most favorite children's book authors.
Thank you.
I treasure your books. I'm telling you, I bought them for my daughter, but literally, like, I have to put them up because she'll draw in it, as I was explaining to you. She'll like draw in it. She'll try to draw the characters, and I'm like, no.
Things can happen, and actually, that's kind of, I'm terrible to say this, but that's cool. Let her write in the books, because I know when my mom passed away and we went through the house and found books, there were books that we found where we had written them because we were bad kids. And I kind of liked looking at those pictures and thinking of myself, you know, this 4-year-old self going, what was I thinking about then? So it's where things can happen. It's okay.
Oh, yeah, she'll definitely draw in them. So I actually treasure them.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you. And anyone and everyone who views this, enjoy. And like Andrea has said, you know, it's never too late to step into your passion, to explore what it is that you want to explore. Do you see the roll of that tongue there?
I did.
You did that well. That was interesting.
That was really good.
And be curious. Remain curious. Remember, I actually have a tagline of one of my many emails. Curiosity only killed cats. So
it's true. It's true. But I had to do that 9 times because they kept coming back for more.
Yes. So again, it was a pleasure. I learned so much. I'm so grateful.
I enjoyed it.
Thank you. And farewell. So long.
Farewell. I'll be in a second. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
I have to do the dancing thing now off the stage. So long.
Farewell.
Awesome. Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank
you. Good night.